of World Crisis Radio. This is Webster Tarpley reporting from Washington, D.C. The main story this week, the huge worldwide provocation starting from the so-called film, a very obscure operation, but mainly a provocation designed to get the results that it has now gotten. We'll get into the process that led to the creation of this film. But we're dealing here with a coordinated, covert operation. We are dealing with an October surprise. It's an October surprise, even though it's still September. The dynamic is that of an October surprise, a worldwide provocation designed to influence the outcome of the U.S. election. In whose favor? In the favor of Romney, to get Obama out. Obama now viewed as a Wall Street puppet who has outlived his usefulness. The ruling class, as we've said, is intent on dumping Obama and installing Mitt Romney for a fascist-like austerity dictatorship. But there's also a question of changing the entire mode in the Middle East, of ending the Obama era of color revolutions and going back to the neocon method of direct military attack. It's an October surprise. It's a September-October surprise, and the goal is to Carterize Obama, to remind everybody that he's the new Jimmy Carter. Well, that's the scenario that I already warned you about 4+ years ago in Obama the Postmodern Coup and in Barack H. Obama, the unauthorized biography. The goal is hostage-taking. Yes, indeed, hostage crises have to occur, according to this scenario, as well as the murder of U.S. Diplomatic officials, such as Ambassador Stevens, that we're going to talk about in a minute. But the main thing to understand is this is not a sociological phenomenon. It's not that somebody gets the idea to make a crackpot film and then somebody on the other side of the world happens to see this, becomes indignant, and mobilizes huge forces. That is fundamentally not what it is. It's a coordinated, covert operations. 3 main components in the network that is carrying this out. First of all, the CIA Mormon Mafia, the Brent Scowcroft faction, the Danites, we can call them. The Scowcroft people, maybe that's the way to start it. Remember that for many years, the boss, the biggest single influence on hiring in the State Department, the intelligence community, the CIA, was Kissinger. And who was Kissinger's right-hand man? Who was the detail man that did the work that Kissinger wanted done? Well, that's Brent Scowcroft, and that goes back 40 to 50 years. Remember, Brent Scowcroft on 9/11 was waiting in a doomsday aircraft and, according to some accounts, flying around. And if the U.S. had been decapitated on 9/11, maybe we would have been under the Brent Scowcroft regime, whether we knew it or not. The CIA Mormon Mafia, remember that the Mormons, the young men, are all sent overseas for about 1.5 to 2 years of missionary work. They come back with the experience of foreign places. They come back speaking or understanding something of foreign languages. Where do they then go to work? They go right into the CIA. So we're dealing with a CIA Mormon Mafia. What is their goal? To install Romney as president, to essentially make all of their careers, right? They know that with Mike Leavitt, the corrupt individual left over from the Salt Lake City Games, this guy who believes in the legitimacy of polygamy as a religious belief, this guy who is the current generation of the Mountain Meadows Massacre. If you have Mike Leavitt sitting in the White House making the personnel decisions, then every Mormon knows that they are headed for the top like a rocket, and that is something that they want. There's also the collective question of power over the United States, fulfilling the White Horse prophecy, carrying out the resentments that they have nursed against the United States for a good 150 or 170 years. So the first group that's carrying out this operation is the CIA Mormon Mafia, the Brent Scowcroft faction in the intelligence community. Now, second component, we know that the main political alliance at work with Romney is the one with Netanyahu, that Romney and Netanyahu are joined at the hip and have been since 1976 when they met at Boston Consulting Group. Netanyahu, a desperate demagogue, a Likudnik reactionary, obviously intervening in a very heavy-handed way, a ham-handed way, I might say, this week in U.S. politics, really causing a scandal which would have been greater if it hadn't been overtaken by these events in Libya and Egypt. The Netanyahu Likudniks and the neocons are throwing their weight into the scales for Romney, right? The main path for the neocons to come back to power is by getting Romney elected, and we've pointed in the past to the people around Romney, his handlers. 2/3 of all of his announced advisors are Bush-Cheney neocons. We're talking Dan Senior, the spokesman for the coalition authority there under Jerry Bremer in Iraq in 2003-2004. We're talking Elliot Cohen, one of the top-level neocons from Johns Hopkins. We're talking John Bolton. John Bolton, the key guy right now, because he's the one who's going to become Secretary of State if everything is on track, right? A madman who could not get confirmed even by a Senate with a Republican majority back during the second term of the Bush administration. You've also got Robert Kagan, you've got Robert Joseph, you've got this entire crew of neocons around Romney. You've also got then the Netanyahu people coming together. So they want this to happen. Something to embarrass Obama, a hostage crisis, something that shows that the entire Obama foreign policy has been feckless, pointless, that it's blowing back, right? That the fomenting and supporting of the color revolutions known as the Arab Spring, that was a bad thing, that it has put power into the hands of Al-Qaeda and the Muslim Brotherhood, which, of course, is to a very large extent true. So, Mormon Mafia, Scowcroft faction, Netanyahu Likudniks plus U.S. neocons, number 2. Number 3, Saudi Salafists and Wahhabites, the group that attacked the U.S. Embassy in Libya. Well, who are they? Well, those are Al-Qaeda death squads, Al-Qaeda or close enough to it. Maybe they're Libyan Islamic fighting group. Maybe there's something else. The Wahhabites, the people back in Saudi Arabia who are the ideological kingpins of this entire thing. They're the ones who pay the death squads, be it in Syria, be it in Libya last year and now. So I would say these 3 groups have come together to make this movie appear and then to make the death squads appear, as, for example, in the case of Libya, and with Netanyahu's public interventions to also box in this Obama-Hillary Clinton crew from that point of view. So it's a 3-pronged attack. Again, an October surprise. Remember, this is what these people do. Back in 1980, right? Bush negotiating with the hostage takers there in Iran that this had to be prolonged beyond the election so that Carter could not get reelected. And that's something that we're seeing now. Watch for the taking of hostages at some of these diplomatic posts. This could happen just about anywhere. The goal, once again, to Carterize Obama. Now we're going to get Bolton saying this in just a second. Back in 1 minute. Welcome back to World Crisis Radio. Webster Tarpley here in Washington, D.C. We've just sketched out the general conceptual framework, what's going on here with the attack on the U.S. Embassy in Libya, the killing of Ambassador Stevens and others, the 17 embassies that are under attack today, Tunis and Khartoum, seemingly the most energetic attacks, but watch out for all different places, even the ones you don't expect. Watch out for hostage-taking. Watch out for more assassinations and general chaos. It also projects inside the United States, right? We get these alarms, threatening phone calls, bomb threats, North Dakota State, University of Texas, Valparaiso State, I think in the Midwest. So all of this stuff going on. What's the bottom line? CIA, Mormon Mafia, Scowcroft faction on the attack, joined by Netanyahu, Likudniks, and neocons. Want to get Romney in there. And Saudi Salafists and Wahhabites, who would probably also like to get Romney in. They also would like to shut down this Arab Spring and make themselves indispensable once again to the United States, so that no fomenting goes on in their bailiwick there, in their backyard. Now let's try to go through this somewhat systematically. Let's start off with this provocation film. The film is called The Innocence of Muslims. There's some question about how it started out. It started out as The Innocence of Bin Laden. It then became The Innocence of Muslims, and on the internet you can see a certain number of minutes of this film. All right, so it was supposedly the actors who took part in this have come forward to say that they thought it was a film about a guy called George. Again, all of these stories, we're now in the realm of intelligence agencies. So all of this stuff, cum grano salis. Now, the Wall Street Journal did an interview on this past Tuesday to the guy who claimed to be the director, Sam Bacile, Sambacile. He says he's a 52-year-old Israeli-American real estate developer. He doesn't like Islam, and he says his film was funded by Jewish donors to the tune of $5 million. Well, that's an interesting story. Again, I wouldn't believe any of this as it comes in as raw intelligence. The phone number traced by the Wall Street Journal leads to Cerritos, California, and the home of somebody called Nakula Basili Nakula, Bassely. Sounds a little bit like Basile, but it's probably the other name that he goes by, because we're now in the realm of the spooks, Sam Bacile, Basselley. Who is this person? There's now two parties, of course, one that says he's an Israeli for sure. That's eminently possible. There's another approach which says, no, he's a Coptic Christian from Egypt, right? This is the Christian minority in Egypt, about 10% of the Egyptian population. Now, whichever of these two pans out, this is going to fan the flames of the operation. It's clever the way this was designed, because it was designed. Nakula is, we are told, a famous saint of the Coptic Christian religion. This is one of the first Coptic martyrs, as I understand it, back in the time of the Roman Empire, the Roman invasion, probably under the Emperor Titus, who came into the Middle East, that this name, I'm sorry, the name is Abanob. Abanob is the critical name. The guy Abanob Basili, this is the typical Coptic name. Saint Abanoub, Abonoub, a Coptic saint named after an Egyptian child martyred by the Romans. So that would be Coptic. And